What?
on.
We're discussing Quiet Riot, of course. So just so in case you guys were just wondering.
The ironic thing is I don't remember what year and what month of the year Kevin Dubrow, the lead singer of Quiet Riot, died. But I think they were touring. This may have been like a month or 2 months before, and I saw him at a local Buffalo mall, and he could have been the most suntanned man I've ever seen in my life, for one thing. And he was stoned beyond belief. He didn't know where he was. He was walking around in a complete haze.
Sounds about right.
Well, he's in Buffalo. I mean, what else do you do?
Yeah, right. Quiet Riot, by the way, is not the documentary on the Air Canada Center. It's a documentary on the...
Boy, come on.
Wow.
Oh,
Sorry, I threw that out there.
I wanted to actually bring this up yesterday, but I didn't have an opportunity. I didn't really get to. I rewatched it yesterday, a little bit of the Oscars. Was anyone else kind of uncomfortable with John Travolta and what he was doing when he was on stage, touching what's
kind of uncomfortable. He looked like a mannequin, and he was acting creepy the whole time. I mean, yes, very.
Like touching what's her name's face, and kind of, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. All I know is that they made a joke about him not remembering the right name, which had been a problem. And there were photos of him kissing Scarlett Johansson on the pre-red carpet, and you could see the look on her face was like, "Get this guy away from me."
I've got a lot of.
He's not aging well, is he, John Travolta?
Well, that's fake hair. I mean, he's bald as a cue ball.
Yeah. Let's put it this way. He wasn't the one they wanted.
Okay.
Oh, I just got that. Pardon the pun. Or no, not pardon.
Like Baba Blue Baba Wapalam Boom Bam.
Oh, God.
All right,
Let's
so
start the show, please.
Josh, I need you to. No, not Josh. Russ, we gotta talk because Friday night, man. Are you free? I'm like, I really want to go see the musical box do Foxtrot at the Keswick Center.
Oh, really? It's Friday?
Yeah, I got no one to go with, so.
I might go there.
What?
I might go.
All right, let's talk about it later.
All right.
They were in Buffalo last week, the best Genesis cover band of all time.
I've never seen it. Never seen them.
You'll have to tell me what you think. I recommend them highly. They were in Buffalo, and I've seen them like 5 times before. They're great.
I'm not at the point where I can go to a prog rock show like that by myself. I'm not confident enough in myself to do that.
I understand. Well, especially in that shirt. No offense.
Right. Well, you know. All right, let's start the show.
I like the sound effects.
Tuesday, February 24th. Mike, Russ, Kevin, Josh. Like that. Okay. Hello, Hockey World. It's Tuesday, February 24th, 2015.
I'm Michael Agello.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I'm Kevin Allen of USA Today Sports.
And I'm Josh Rimmer.
And I'm Eklund, and you're watching the HockeyBuzzCast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that we come to Monday through Friday to give you the news and goings-on. If you've never watched us before, that's what we do. And if you have watched us before, that's also what we do. But to start, we have a couple trades. We have a couple signings. We have some trades. We have things to talk about today right off the bat. Yes. We need that like Gary Bettman soundbite. We have a trade to announce. That would be perfect. But yeah, so we have one. Mike, give it to us. What happened today?
I'll give you the trade first, and we can discuss that one. 1-for-1 deal between Anaheim and Montreal. Yuri Seacash goes to Anaheim for Devontae Smith-Pelly. Both 22 years old, both making less than $1 million. I believe Seacash is making less than $1 million. I'll double check that, but they're
just a little over.
Yeah, I mean they're both at around the same stage of their career. I mean, Seacash played in the KHL for a couple years, got signed this year, was playing well early, but then has been in and out of the lineup the last few games. Whereas Smith-Pelly scored 5 goals in the playoffs last year, had a really good year in the AHL, came up late in the season. I think he had 10 points in 19 games, but this year has 5 goals in 50 games. So to me, I read this as basically a change of scenery for both young guys. getting a new start with a new organization. I like it in terms of Montreal because I think Smith-Pelly provides them some size that they don't have. Whereas Seacash, he might fit in with Anaheim because I think he has some skill, but I like the deal for Montreal.
Russ, you're the prospect guy. These two players, what are your thoughts?
I think it's a pretty fair trade. I think Mike's assessment is good because of the size factor, but Smith-Pelly has been very inconsistent in his career, so it'll be interesting to see if they could sort of light a fire under him because he's got all the tools, but he's never really put it together. Sort of like Evander Kane, except Kane's been a little more successful in my eyes. And so I think this is a good shot for Montreal. I do, because Montreal was probably loaded with too many finesse guys anyhow, and so they needed a guy like this, like a Cassian like this, to sort of, if they want to really advance in the playoffs when the game gets tighter and there's less space, he's going to provide that, and hopefully he'll crash the net for them.
Well, I mean, the thing is that for those who are saying that this sort of takes Montreal out of the game in terms of making an addition at forward, I don't think so. I think this is more, their bottom six right now is Jakob Delarose, Christian Thomas, and Michael Bourneval, which has not a lot of experience. Going into the playoffs, I don't think Therrien is going to want to have a fourth line with very little experience, so I think Bergevin is going to go out and probably try to get another forward so he can move people down and have a little more savvy on that fourth line. And Smith-Pelly, I think, projects out to a third line guy. And that's not bad. I mean, I think he's a work in progress. He's still young enough that he can improve. But I don't think Montreal's done here. They didn't take on any salary with this deal. In fact, I think they decreased a little bit. So I think what's going to happen here is they're going to make another move probably obviously before Monday to add a forward. And I keep hearing Joffrey Lupul's name attached to them. I'm not sure whether that's going to happen or not. But where there's smoke, there might be fire.
Yeah, I don't think Montreal wants to go with like Christian Thomas as their fourth line guy in the playoffs. He'll get killed. I mean, he's a smaller guy. Yes, he's fast, but he plays okay defense, and he's still pretty weak. Like, I really don't think that's a guy you want to run with.
Yeah. Now, Seacash, I mean, Montreal fans were not happy about this deal. This is the kind of guy that Montreal fans, and I mean this in the absolute best way possible, fall in love with, because the passion of the Canadiens fans, I love it, and it's hard to kind of, people thought I were being sarcastic when I tweeted that out, but I absolutely love the fact that Montreal fans fall in love with their players, and they do, and they fall in love with Seacash pretty quickly, and he's one of those guys who they were really unhappy about. I mean, a lot of them thought he was the next Plekanec, and here he is, he's shipped out. Russ, what's his upside? What do you think?
I don't think he's a Plekanec. I really think he's sort of like a second-line guy at best, third-line guy most likely, and I think he's probably like a 50-point guy at best. And right. I think that's where Montreal, I think, made a really good trade here, because I think Pelly can give you that same point production, but a lot more toughness.
Yeah, and I've seen Smith-Pelly play a couple times. He came into Philly, and I think had 2 goals this year, right, in a game against the Flyers. He looked amazing. I mean, in that game, and you can see he's the kind of guy, even when he's not scoring, you notice him. He's very recognizable. He's one of these. He's absolutely has a unique skating style to him, and he's a problem maker. He makes problems. He creates issues for defense, and
he goes to the dirty areas.
Up and down a lot. He's what now, Mike?
He goes to the dirty areas. He
does.
He goes to the corners. He goes to the front of the net, and that's what's missing from the Canadiens. I mean, you've got a lot of guys who I think stay on the periphery, and last year in the playoffs, even though he sort of at times mails it in, Rene Bourque in the playoffs used his big body to go into the corners, go to the front of the net, create havoc, and I think that was a difference for Montreal. they got rid of Bork in another deal with Anaheim earlier in the year. So in a way, they got back a different player who provides the same type of thing and the same type of inconsistency as Bork. He's just a lot younger than Bork. So
he's a lot tougher than Bork too. I mean,
and a lot tougher. But I'm saying, Bork at times would do that. He just never put it together consistently.
I mean, there is a question that's being raised, and I think this is fair. That is Michel Therrien. This is just a guy that he obviously didn't like, and he was scratching him. And we've seen Therrien, fall out of favor with speedy, skilled type players. This is not necessarily his ball of wax. And I think there's a little bit of concern there. But whatever, it's hard to argue with success right now in Montreal. So, yeah, maybe this is just not the kind of maybe he really does thrive in Anaheim. It could turn out to be a phenomenal trade in Anaheim. It's one of those trades that we down the line Montreal fans might hate because he turns out to be a great player in Anaheim, but at the same time, if he had stayed in Montreal, he never would have become that player. Yeah. So it's hard to say.
But, I mean...
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think the other thing with Therrien is last year in the playoffs against the Rangers, they were manhandled a bit.
Yes.
And I think they saw that,
yeah.
And they said we can't have that happen again, especially if we match up against them again.
Yeah, and if you go long, and they expect to go a long time in the playoffs, the further you go into it, the more you need this kind of player. I mean, the more important he's going to be. He's going to become. Your guys are going to get hurt. He's good because you can play him on any line, at any time. He's going to be physically tough throughout the whole.
He's very strong.
Yeah, throughout the whole playoffs, he's going to be able to drive this crazy. So,
but this. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
But this deal is unusual in the fact that, with now 6 days left to go before the deadline, this was a player-for-player deal. This was a hockey deal. Even though it is two players that are not really established, it is a hockey deal. It's not a young player for a pick or an old player with an expiring contract. I don't think you're going to see many of these in the next 6 days. I think there may be the occasional hockey deal, but I think most of these deals are going to be rent-to-players.
That's a really good question because I don't know. I mean, there's some rental players out there, yes, that are definitely going to go, but I think a lot of these rental players aren't going to go. And I think that the other trade we saw was a player-for-player trade too. I mean, the Winnipeg-Buffalo trade, that was another player-for-player deal. Granted, it had some circumstances with Evander Kane and all that, but it still was a player-for-player deal. It's not like like we see for the Cody Franzen, Santorelli. That was an old-fashioned, rental deal, right?
So it's a dump deal, yeah.
Right, so salary dump deal.
Yeah, this is skill for size, and Smith-Pelly has really good hands around the net, but he has to get there.
Yeah.
And so somebody's got to teach him the willingness to go there. He used to do it in juniors. And so, that's what he needs to do. If he could do that at the NHL level, he could score 20 goals. But he has to be, do it consistently.
Yeah, that's where I see it too. I think Canadian fans are going to love this guy, though. I do. I think it's one of those things that they're freaking out now, but I have a feeling this is the kind of player that fan base will eat up. I think they'll absolutely be into this player soon.
No, I didn't hear the details on the Jordan Nolan signing. I know it's 3 years, but I didn't hear the amount.
I haven't heard the details yet either. 3 years. The Nick Leddy one is the one that really intrigues me. 7 years, 5.5 for Nick Leddy. That's a shocker in a lot of ways, Russ. Don't you think?
Yeah, it's too much. I have consistency issues with Leddy. Now, this has been his most consistent year, but you have to sort of weigh out too. If you think he's going to be a high point guy, he started off hot. He's got 25 points. So it's not like he's lighting the world on fire offensively. Now, he is a really good puck mover, and for the most part, a pretty good defender with some hiccups occasionally, but not to the degree of like a Michael Del Zotto, a little more solid than that on defense. But again, I don't look at him as anything more than sort of a middle-of-the-road defenseman, and you've given him 7 years just because he's young. I don't think he's really ever proven himself. His high year, I think, was 31 points. So maybe he breaks that this year, but this is an awful lot of money to give to a guy. I mean, I guess they're doing that because they feel like they're probably going to lose Boychuk.
Right.
That's the question. I mean, if you're giving 5.5 to Leddy, I mean, what would Boychuk? What can Boychuk demand? I mean, like 7.5. Like to me, he's a $2 million better player than Leddy.
Well, I mean, the landscape with the Islanders right now is Wisniewski is probably done. I mean, his contract is expiring. If they bring him back, it's probably going to be for significantly less money than what he's making right now, which I'm not looking at their cap, but I think it's close to or over $5 million. So, essentially, Leddy is getting Wisniewski's money.
And he's not nearly as good offensively. He's not even close.
I agree, Russ. I agree completely. I mean, I think Leddy is a one-way defender. He's a little better a defender than the guy you mentioned, Del Zotto, but he's not strong in the defensive zone. He's not really big and tough in front of the net. If I know that they paired together him and Boychuk, I think for Leddy to be successful, they need to re-sign Boychuk, and they have the cap room. So if they want to get it done, they can get it done. But I have a feeling Boychuk is probably going to want to test the market and see what's out there. What I think is interesting here is the effect that this signing has on the free agent market in July. For those who thought that guy like Cody Franzen wasn't going to get $5.5 million, if Nick Leddy's getting $5.5 million, Cody Franzen's getting $6 million.
See, so, I don't know. I think that's true, but I'll also throw this out there that I think that the weirdness of this whole thing is, do the Islanders have to pay more to get a defenseman to stay there?
They do.
And that's kind of strange because this is a team that's going to a new building. There's a lot of excitement surrounding them. They're a top team in the conference. They shouldn't have to pay more to get a guy to stay there right now.
But what we don't factor in is they have a lousy practice facility, and players talk about that.
Right.
Even though they're playing in Brooklyn, where are they going to be practicing? Most likely they're going to still be at the same place.
Right. So that's...
And they paid him this money coming. He was going to be an RFA. He was not. He didn't have their gun to their head. No. He was an RFA. They could have gone to arbitration and signed him for 1 year or 2 years or whatever. They signed him for 7 years.
They had to do this. There's a reason they had to do this, and I'm not sure what that is. They must have felt like they had to do this. And to me, it's either they had to keep him there, or maybe they wanted to make a statement to Boychuk saying we're going to keep these guys together. There's often that when you sign a guy long term, because free agents look at who you have signed long term when they want to sign with you. They want to see who their teammates are going to be for the rest of the time. So
I think it's insurance, though. I think they feel like they're going to lose Boychuk, and this is insurance. But I'll give you something where I think the Islanders could benefit even from this signing, even though I'm not in love with it. If they really feel like they're a cup contender, Wisniewski is going to get hurt, right? I mean, it's almost a guarantee. I would trade for Yandel, and if I have to throw Griffin Reinhart in that deal, I do it because that's the only way they're going to get to the Stanley Cup is if they have like a really premier offensive defenseman running things. Boychuk's just a little short of that. Leddy is short of that. And if you want to be a Stanley Cup winning team, you have to have that guy. The Rangers didn't have that guy last year. You saw that.
Yeah.
It's a pretty big deal, and so that may be something that could benefit them.
Yeah, I mean,
Yandel, and we wanted to talk a lot today about the Metropolitan Division. I wanted to go first, though. Josh, you do have the Nolan signing details. What do we have?
Yes, we do, guys. Jordan Nolan signed to a 3-year contract, and the average salary. Well, actually, the extension is $2.85. For 3 years, that's about $950 per year for the next 3 years for Jordan Nolan.
Okay, that's pretty good value for that player.
Yeah, I mean on that team he's a fourth line guy.
Right,
I mean, he's an energy guy.
So let's talk about the Metro Division here, because that's what we're gonna try to attack division by division for the rest of the week, because we have 4 more days before the trade deadline. So the Metro Division, since we have Russ today, seems like the one to hit. And starting with what you're saying here, this is a good place to start with the Islanders. What do they need? The whole idea here of picking up a defenseman, I couldn't agree with you more. And then, of course, a name that has been coming up in the rumor mill has been James Wisniewski the last couple of days. Now, I talked to some people about this, and I don't think that he's as available, and they're definitely not shopping James Wisniewski as has sort of been put out there. It's more an example of a team like Columbus who has plenty of who's listening. They're listening to they'll listen to anything.
Right.
So Wisniewski's he's a right-handed shot. He's a good defenseman. Is he enough, or is you need Yandel? Russ, what do you think?
I think they would rather have Yandel just because I think he makes less than Wisniewski too, doesn't he?
It's less term. Yandel's only 1 more year, and Wisniewski I think is 3 more.
Yeah, it was
Two
Wisniewski's got
more.
3 more
It's
years.
2 more.
So I think they would go for Yandel over Wisniewski just because of the term, and I think it's less money too. I'm pretty sure Wisniewski's making more.
Yeah.
Wisniewski's 5.5. Yandel is 5.25. Yandel is 1 more year. Wisniewski is 2 more years.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's pretty close. I mean, that's
It's
pretty
close.
close. It's not, and Wisniewski's brings a lot of more. He's a different kind of player than Yandel. He brings offense, but he also brings a lot more physicality to the whole thing than Yandel does. Which might help them.
If the Islanders feel like they're going to be healthy, sorry, Mike, then just add that extra depth defenseman, but they have to add a defenseman. I know everybody's thinking they have to add this forward with experience. I don't think they need that. Their puck moving's good. Their puck possession's good. They score goals. I think at the end of the day, they need another defenseman for insurance against the guys that always get injured.
Right.
Yeah, and they're on their defense. I mean, they have Boychuk, they have Hamonic, who are basically, I think, stay-at-home guys. I think they need an offensive guy to sort of complement Leddy. I mean, if the Flyers didn't have a problem trading inside the division, a guy like Del Zotto probably would work for them because he can carry the puck and he can jump into the offensive attack. But if there's an offensive defenseman out there, that they could get as a rental, then maybe that's a fit. I don't know if they would want to give up. I mean, because every indication is that Garth Snow doesn't want to give up any of these, premium prospects that they have, like Del Cole or Strome or Pullock. I mean, they don't want to give up these guys in deals because they don't have their first-round pick next year because of the trade with Buffalo. So, I mean, I think that they're probably more apt to go for a cheaper rental than to make a big inquiry or a big acquisition like Yandel.
So let's fill Kevin down in what we're doing here. So we were talking about the Metro Division a little bit, and we started with the Islanders. And Russ had a point that he feels that the Islanders should go after Keith Yandel, and that's what they need. That's what they really need to compete for the Stanley Cup to go a long ways here. Even willing to give up Griffin Reinhart to do so. And we were talking about, now, we also brought up Wisniewski's name as a possibility there. What are your thoughts on the Islanders here moving?
Well, they'd have a hard time swinging the Yandel trade because to get Yandel, you have to have a player that's off your roster, a first-round pick, and a premium prospect. So, I mean, for Yandel, you're talking it would be something like Strome, Reinhart, and a first-round pick. They obviously do not have their first-round pick.
Isn't that a lot to give up for Yandel?
That it is, but that's what
the current asking price.
Yeah, that's what Now, it could fall, but I think that's why I think Yandel will get done in the summer. And the other thing is you have to remember what the Coyotes are trying to accomplish. This is I did a story with the team president, and this is not a strip down to the chassis rebuild. This is what they're calling a reset, which is so Yandel doesn't have to go. We're assuming that he's going to go, right. But he doesn't have to go because they do not want to have the 3 to 5 year rebuild. They want to try to change on the fly. So they're asking a lot. I mean, I know that the Red Wings quickly dismissed the idea of looking at Yandel because for them you're talking Tatar, a first round pick, and then some other prospect, and they're not willing to do that. Right. But I think the Islanders should do something because this is a very good team, and I think it also, in addition to helping them defensively, I mean they're still not good enough defensively. We all know that. And I think it also sends a message to the players that are still there that we think we're close and we're going to do whatever we can. But they also have to be careful because they've built a nice team here, so they don't want to give away their young pieces.
Right.
Remember the last time the Islanders were in a playoff hunt, they went and traded for Ryan Smith. They did make a big bold move at the deadline. Now they weren't this team, of course. They were right on the edge when they made that Ryan Smith move. It wasn't even guaranteed they were going to make the playoffs, but they did make it. But I agree. This is a different situation. Columbus will just move quickly. Like I said before, I've done more research on Wisniewski, and I really do feel that he's unlikely to be traded, but they'll listen type thing. That's really where I feel like it's more about.
I mean, they're one of the. Go ahead.
I don't think they could trade him based on the ill health of Ryan Murray. Like they wouldn't have anybody who could replace him.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that they really are looking more down the line, and they have some prospects that they like, and they're not this year. This year's a wash for them, so they are out of it in their minds. I think.
The one thing about Columbus though is I mean they are on record as having said publicly to their fans that this season, they still felt comfortable with this team, so they can't strip it down too much because. Yeah. You're still trying to win over the fans there. The history there is they got off to a great start and everybody was enthused, and then the team just never responded. They went through the long drought of not getting in the playoffs, and now they're sort of building it back. There was a lot of enthusiasm, last season, and now obviously that's been eroded by the fact they had so many injuries and Nathan Horton's future is in doubt and so forth. So they have to be careful there not to send the wrong message. And trading a veteran player like Wisniewski, and again, the return would probably dictate how fans would respond. But I think they're going to have to be careful there. And I agree with you. I think they're listening, but I don't think they're aggressively trying to trade them.
There's no real offensive defenseman in their system. I mean, I just went through.
Okay, all right, there you go. So, I mean, the one thing I'll say about them is this: that they might, if there's a team out there that's going to be a buyer in a weird way, it might be the Blue Jackets. They might go out there and they might actually try to pick up a player that would surprise you. It would be a player, of course, it's not a rental player, but a player that they think, because there are so many players available right now, that they think they could grab or down the line, like a Jake Gardner or somebody like that.
Well, I was just going to say the fact that they're the one seller or one of the group of sellers who doesn't have a lot to sell. I mean, other than Wisniewski being out there, the only guys who are UFAs are Jordan Leopold, Jack Skilly, and Mark Letestu. It's if the Wisniewski talk wasn't out there, they would be completely off the radar in the next 6 days. So
I think they would be, but I think they're going to make a move. I got the impression they're going to they have some thoughts of players that they're going to go after, which might be surprising, and it's sort of a situation where there are so many players available right now. There are so many players available that some teams are looking at it like, well, maybe that player's undervalued right now, and they just don't see it. And if they see a player that they like as a prospect, they could go for him. And I think you could see that. I
like that too. I think they should be, since they believe still in their group. Yeah. They should behave like a contender. And say, okay, our season will start again in September, and let's behave and add. More parts to make a run for it next season.
Yeah. Let's look at the Rangers. Well, actually, when Russ comes back, we'll look at the Rangers. We'll start with we'll go to the Flyers for a second. And I just want to throw out, I have changed my mind based on talking to people about Chemo teaming in. So I'm going to admit that not that I was wrong, just that minds change from day to day. And yesterday I wrote that I felt like the Flyers had resurrected their ability to keep Chemo there after winning a couple games. And that was really just a speculation thing on my part, and that's all I said. I said it just feels like that, okay, they're going to be in this now, and Chemo's coming back on Saturday. But I really now, after talking to more people, I do believe that there's a market for Chemo, even though he's only practicing, he's only going to play on Saturday. But I really have gotten the sense that there's teams that are interested in him, and that the Flyers will probably move him. And I get the impression that he probably wants to be moved, to try to play for try to win a cup in this last run.
I'm not surprised there's a market for him, because he makes $2 million and he is a veteran, an experienced quality blue liner. If he is back to anywhere close to what he normally is, a team that's cap challenged like Boston or LA. Or whoever needs a defenseman right now, they would love to get a guy like Timonen because they can fit him in under the cap. It's a prorated $2 million.
Throwing this out there, that Chemo Timonen is going to be traded, but he's going to be a factor as well. And I honestly think that the time off really helped him, and it really refreshed him. And I think that this is such a determined guy. He's always been undersized. He's always been sort of thrown out there, like he's not going to be able to do this or that. And this is the kind of situation that Chemo thrives in. Saturday night he's playing against the Rangers. Apparently, that's what it sounds like, at least.
But we don't know what's going to happen with the blood clotting medicine and how that'll affect his stamina and his. That's an unknown.
Right, but this is from what I understood, a lot of this medicine he's been on for a while, right? That this is stuff that his blood clotting in his legs has been something that he's been on for a few years now.
Don't be surprised, and there's there's history here in terms of them taking a risk. Anaheim, I think, really needs defensemen right now, and last year they rolled the dice. Yeah, last year they rolled the dice with Robidas when he was still coming back from his broken leg, and he came back just before the playoffs. You know, with Tiemann in here, it's a risk. I mean, whoever tries to make the deal for him, you know, he could have problems afterward, and then they don't have the ability to replace him because it'll be after the deadline. But I think Bob Murray, you know, could roll the dice on him because the price won't be ridiculous, and he, you know, if he stays healthy, you know, that's a great ad at the deadline.
Yeah, L.A. as well.
Like an additional third, you know, based on how many games he plays.
Right.
Yeah, something like that. And that's a steal, honestly. It's because you're going to play a guy for the playoffs who has so much experience and is such a good leader. I mean, if he's healthy, that's a steal. That's well worth doing. Besides that, the Flyers have been very specific about saying they aren't buyers, which is kind of a new thing for them to actually put out there. But you know, I'm throwing this out there again, Russ. I talked about earlier with Kevin on a different thing that we did. That the more, and this is kind of long term, but I'm just going to throw this out. The more and more people I talk to, the more and more I look at this situation, the more I believe that the Flyers are going to be on Mike Babcock this summer. And there's just a growing feeling among that a lot of the stuff that we've seen, and Russ and I have talked about this in the press box many times, was just like that this is a team that just doesn't make sense that they've stuck with this coach. It doesn't make sense that they're playing, that there's so much apathy around it. And then you look at it, maybe their long-range plan is to get in on that. It feels like it makes too much sense sometimes. Russ?
Or I mean, nothing's impossible. I'm sure they'll make an offer to him if he's available. But does that mean you're going to be upset when they actually sign John Stevens again?
No. I mean, I don't think that. You think John Stevens is going to return?
I think John Stevens is going to return.
It's possible. I mean, I think Stevens is going to wait it out in L.A. because I think he's the heir apparent there, and I don't think that Sutter's going to be there forever. I think he's going to, at some point, Sutter's going to leave.
Well, that'll make 3 teams that are in a holding pattern for Mike Babcock.
Yes, but I do think that it's a growing possibility in Philadelphia, and I don't think there'll be buyers or sellers here. They could be sellers. I don't know. Do you see
anybody really see Mike Babcock going to Toronto and taking over that?
No, it just doesn't make sense. I mean,
Kevin,
the money's going to be the same for him wherever. In my opinion, the money's not going to be an issue. Detroit's going to match whatever they put together.
I think as soon as Toronto announced the scorched earth, the rebuild, that ended the chances of Mike Babcock going to Toronto. No matter, even if they offered him $10 million a year, he's not going to go to a place that's going to be 3 to 5 years before the team's competitive. Edmonton, I don't know if he wants to go to Edmonton, but at least there's the pieces there that he could build around with, you know, Nugent Hopkins and Hall and Eberle, that, you know, he could form a cohesive group. And, you know, I think Philadelphia's talent laden either, but right now, I mean, I think Toronto is the least on that list in terms of him going there.
Is Mrs. Babcock a shopper? Is that going to be an issue?
What was that?
Is Mrs. Babcock a shopper? Is that going to be?
I don't think so. But, you know, it is interesting when you think about the Flyers, ex-Flyers coaches, where they are right now. You know, I thought about this, working on a story about this, that, you know, one of them is the head coach of the best team in the league right now. Another is the head coach of the second best team in the league right now. And another is, you know, the assistant coach of the Stanley Cup champions from the 2 of the last 3 years. So yeah, the Flyers ex-coaches have gone on to pretty good things. So good things ahead. Good things would await for Berube if he was to move on. Find a good spot somewhere. The Capitals are they're real. It's hard to. You always forget that they're in the Metro Division, but here they are. They're in the Metro Division, and they're playing well. I mean, Backstrom is just making this late surge for MVP in some ways. Some people are talking about him all of a sudden as an MVP possibility. What are your thoughts, Kev, on the Caps?
Well, they don't want to do anything major. They want to make a move. They've sort of made up their mind that they've got some younger players there, Kuznetsov and Burakovsky, and I think their thinking there is look, they're part of our long-term future, and let's make our future start right now. So I think they're invested in this group. They're not going to just bring in a couple of veterans and move them aside because they're not quite ready.
Right.
But I do think, they like their defense a lot. They now have 5 guys there that can really do whatever you need them to do defensively. All those guys can handle the puck and play poised defense and play the game the way that Barry Trotz likes to play it, which is just putting pressure on the opposition. It always feels, and I've said this before, but when you watch a Barry Trotz team, it always feels like they're playing with too many men on the ice. There's just never any room because he's got his guys going hard all the time, and they're hard to play against. So I look for them to add a forward, but not a big name guy, not one of the prize guys, but just a depth role player to come in and add. I mean, they're pretty happy with their goaltending and defense.
Yeah, that's a good one. And let's talk about the Rangers for a second, Josh. I mean, Russ. Sorry, why am I keep calling Josh Russ and Russ Josh? All right, Russ, let's talk about the Rangers. You read an article today in Hockey Buzz about how, again, Lundqvist, the future is in Lundqvist's hands, which is obviously the case. But what do you think? What are they looking for? What do you think?
I think they're first looking for a medical report on Lundqvist. I think that's really the first thing you have to get because March 2nd is going to be here probably before Lundqvist is able to play. Yeah. And the only thing that they're going to be able to get is a doctor's report saying, we think he can come back and be the same guy, or we're not sure, or, yeah, he can play, but we're not sure. And so I think the Rangers need to have a backup plan because Cam Talbot showed he's going to give up 3 goals a game. And if you give up 3 goals in the game in the playoffs, you're going to be out. Look, Marc-Andre Fleury proved that for a couple of years straight. So that's their biggest need is going to be this backup goalie first. And I proposed like Jason LaBarbera, a guy who they actually drafted, who Anaheim probably doesn't need and is very cap-friendly because the Rangers don't have cap space. Offer them a young defenseman like Connor Allen in their organization, and at least you've got another guy in case Talbot gets hurt or in case you decided, hey, maybe Talbot's not even the guy you want to have as the backup for the playoffs based on his performance because he's only had a 90% save percentage in one of these 8 games that he started. And so that's, to me, it's worrisome. But going beyond that, if Lundqvist is okay, they need a face-off guy. They were one of the worst face-off teams in the league. I mean, Dominic Moore is their best face-off guy. And last time I looked, I want to say he was something between 15 and 20. And so we know Vermette's out there. And the interesting thing to me is, can the Rangers sign Zuccarello? He's asking for over $5 million. And I know the opinion of the Hockey Buzz community was, well, there's no way Phoenix would ever take Zuccarello because there's no way they'd pay him $5 million. But based on what Kevin says, I think if for some reason they wanted to do the right thing by Vermette, knowing that he's going to leave, and get Zuccarello, if they think they could sign him, maybe there's a trade there. You add a pick, you add a player, and maybe all of a sudden you have something. At least that's an upgrade for the Rangers because the way it stands now, their first and second line centers are not great faceoff guys, Stepan and Brassard, and at least if you had Vermette, you could sort of sub him in for faceoffs and then take them off when they're in the offensive zone. And we've seen teams do that, and actually the Flyers used to do that a lot.
In the playoffs a lot, yeah, they do. Yeah. They do quite a bit.
Well,
I get the impression Zuccarello is going to be an issue too. Everybody I've talked to, it doesn't sound like that's going to be an easy signing, at all. And it's kind of a shame because I would like to see Zuccarello stay. I like him a lot. I think he makes sense with that team.
Well, maybe Glenn Sather has Tim Murray on speed dial because I know that Michael Neuwirth, who's played very well since the Enroth deal, is probable to get moved out of Buffalo because he's a UFA. I'm not sure that the Sabres see him as a number 1 goaltender going forward, and he is playing, like I said, he is playing pretty well over the last few weeks and has played well throughout the season. And obviously the Sabres don't need a goaltender right now, and Enroth and Neuwirth were both UFAs. But to Russ's point about a face-off guy, I mean, I don't see that many really good face-off centers out there. I mean, Vermette's one of them. I know Daniel Winnick is more of a winger than a center, but he has taken draws, and I think he's around 50%. So it's an even,
Vermette's around 70, 68.
Yeah, but Vermette's going to cost a team a first-round pick, and that's apparently what the
really a first-rounder for Antoine Vermette.
That's what
for
Phoenix.
sure. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the asking price.
What team is going to be willing to do that, though? I mean, that's.
They're going to be stuck with Vermette. I don't think anybody's going to do it.
Well,
ahead,
I will say Vermette will be traded. Maybe they'll move off of that. But if they do, it's going to be a second-round pick and a prospect. I mean, look what David Legwand went for last year.
Yeah.
I think they're going to end up keeping. What's Neuver's cap hit?
2.5, but they can take back 50. They can hold 50%.
Yeah, they're going to have to do that. I mean, because the Rangers' cap situation is
right.
desperate, and I think they'll keep Zuccarello, and he'll just be part of the deal. And they're going to hope that. I just don't see him getting a goalie. I just think that it would be a hard trade to make, and I don't think they're going to win the cup without Lundqvist. And I think they know that. I think they have a legitimate shot if Lundqvist comes back. So I think they'll use that the cap space they have, and maybe look for another defenseman.
Yeah, but this is sort of like, and I don't disagree with you, Kev, but this is sort of like that backup quarterback situation in football, except you already know there's an issue with your starter, and it's sort of like, I don't know, like me, if I'm the GM, I hope Lundqvist comes back 100%, but if I don't have any insurance and he doesn't, I'm out in the first round, and then what does that do for my team?
Yeah, no, I mean, I get it, but...
I mean, Neuvirth is a good option, too, and he really can't. He was not going to cost them that much. I mean, the money Buffalo's going to have to keep the money. I have heard though that Buffalo he could return to Buffalo as a free agent. They actually do like him there.
Well,
I've been told that too. Yeah.
It's not out of the question, but I mean, again, it's one of these deals where like we've mentioned with Vermette before, where Vermette could get traded at the deadline and then end up signing with the Coyotes. I mean, Neuvirth could go someplace, impress in the playoffs, and then Buffalo, who needs a goaltender next year, could re-sign him. I mean, Buffalo's going to have a lot of room and a lot of jobs.
What Matt Molson did last year. Matt Molson.
One thing about goalies is, when you enter that free agent marketplace, you got to have a lot of courage and conviction about your own abilities, because when the music stops, there's always a goalie or two that gets left without a chair.
Right.
And just there aren't enough jobs. That's just the biggest problem. So. It'll be interesting to see, because there's a lot of logic to what Russ says about all that. I just think it's hard to pull the trigger on that, though, because they've got other holes they got to fix. I think they really do have to add another defenseman. And their defense, I like their defense. I mean, I still think that Stahl and Girardi and McDonough are a foundation of a championship team. And I think they're still benefiting from the Tortorella legacy in those three guys. I think they learned better defensemen under that. Yeah. And that's such a good. I mean, they're a team really capable of winning the cup, in my opinion. And that's why I think they got to be so careful about what they do here and not squander their. I mean, they have so little money. They got to make the right decision.
True.
Yeah, they're really stuck. Quickly, because we got to move on to the news. Let's talk. I guess New Jersey. It pretty much is all about Yager. It's.
Yeah, I mean Yager, Mike Ryder, Zidlicki. I mean they have 10 UFAs. I mean some of them are hurt, but they could be a big, a big shopper.
They'll be players.
Nobody talks much about Zidlicki, but if you can convince him to go and play, and that's always been an issue in the past, he likes it in New York. There would be a lot of teams interested in him. He'd be a good fit in Detroit. He'd be a good fit in.
What about the Islanders? I mean, we talked about this.
They'd be good for. Well, I mean that would be a possibility. I mean, because he can stay in the area. So.
And not that I think it's a consideration, but the Devils have won 4 games in a row and are 8 points behind Boston. So Lou Lamoriello has made noises that I don't think we're out of it. If he doesn't make moves, that he could justify. Well, I still think we're in it. So
yeah,
I don't think that's the case. I think that they should sell. I think that they're going to sell everything that they can, but that might be a consideration if they don't.
Yes, that's for sure. No, I agree. I agree with that. Carolina, Sakara obviously is the name that people keep mentioning. And
Kalusti for sure too.
and
Jay
Toulousti's, we've talked about, picking up a couple teams picking up a forward. Toulousti's one of those kind of forwards, I think, that when we mentioned these things. He's the kind of guy that I would want to grab if I was a team for this deadline. If the Islanders are going to pick up another forward for their fourth line, that kind of thing. I could see that. I could see them.
Jay McClement might be your face-off guy, Russ. Cheap, $1 million contract, good on face-offs, good fourth-line center, penalty killer. That might be a fit. Shot blocker, yeah. That might be a fit.
Yeah, that's for sure. I can see that. And finally, because we're ripping through this, but the Penguins here, Kevin, you made it known before, player in, money out situation that they're in.
Yeah, but they want to make a deal, so they're going to try. They're going to try to make a deal, and it could be one of those situations where a team will have to keep some salary, and the Penguins will have to pay more. You can accomplish that as long as you're willing to pay more.
Yep. Yeah. No. And I really keep hearing Bergenheim mentioned with them again today. So I don't know. That's a player. I know he's a little bit expensive, but I think the kind of player that they're looking for, maybe.
What's their his? Is it 2.5?
2.5. Yep. But if they can keep keep some of that, that's different. That could change things. And he's a playoff performer. He's a gritty player.
275.
275. So yeah, I mean, that to me is the way to go with, and and Toulouse maybe as well. I mean, it looks like they're moving more towards a forward now, Kevin, right, than a defender.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, they want someone who can actually move into the top six.
Yeah.
And they say Rutherford is a big fan of Toulouse, so I mean, obviously since he was there in Carolina.
Yeah.
And maybe that's something that works between those two teams. I'm sure he's got a relationship with Ron Francis, and Toulouse's salary is a little less than $3 million, so they would probably would retain half to make that work.
Yeah, I'm still surprised that Carolina hasn't re-signed Toulouse, but I guess it's not going to happen.
Yep.
All right.
He wants too much, according to.
Yeah, he's going to be, and it's going to be interesting to see how much he can get. All right, what do you have, Josh, for us today?
A couple of little tidbits, guys. Let's begin with what's going on in Detroit. Hasn't really been talked about much here the last couple of days, and that's what's going on with Henrik Zetterberg. Zetterberg and the Detroit Red Wings played the Dallas Stars a couple days ago. I don't know if you guys saw it or not, but during the game, Zetterberg was tying up Jamie Benn in front of the net. Benn got frustrated, punched him in the head a couple of times, and there's a little speculation out there right now that maybe Zetterberg could be suffering from a concussion. Not really talking about it yet, but yeah, that's not a good thing in Detroit right now.
Yeah. Okay.
Did you guys see that? The punches a couple days ago from Jamie Benn?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, I did. Hopefully he's okay,
Apparently no supplemental discipline, though, will take place at all.
I didn't think it was supplemental. I didn't think there should be any supplemental discipline. But I thought it wasn't a clean play at all. But I don't know. Tough call.
Moving on, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. Philadelphia, obviously, we talked about that earlier in the show about how well they've been playing of late. Well, good news out of Philadelphia. Obviously, Ray Emery went down, and he's day-to-day right now, and they're using two guys that were in the minors. But Steve Mason kind of left the door open today, a sliver that he possibly could return on Thursday, but says Saturday is more realistic. So that's a little bit of good news for the Philadelphia Flyers.
Yeah, I mean that's huge for them. Obviously, without Mason, they can't make a run. I mean, I do happen to like Rob Zepp as their shootout goalie for the future, though. I mean, like I wish that we could get to the point where a shootout goalie is like a closer in baseball.
Talked about it when it first started, but no one's really embraced it.
And this is one situation where they absolutely should, because Zepp has been amazing in shootouts in his career in Europe, and beats the Predators the other day in a shootout. The Flyers haven't have won a couple shootouts lately, but Mason and Emery are not good on shootouts, so it would make sense. I mean, Zepp should come in.
All he's got to do is warm up in the bullpen. Come on.
It's really not that difficult to come out and face the shootout off the bench. I mean, it really, at the end of the day, I think a goalie can handle that. I just think it's more of an ego thing for the goalie you're taking out. I think that's the issue, right? So, but if you just accept this guy's the closer, you're good.
Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, but when Curtis Joseph second turnaround with the Leafs, didn't they used to bring him off the bench to play in the shootout?
They did it once, and he got scored on in all 3 attempts, and they never did it again. But they toyed with the idea because Toskala was so bad in the shootout.
I just think it makes sense. It doesn't. It's just ridiculous to me. Anyway, Josh.
Yes. How about this, guys? We talked about it again about a couple days ago. How the Vegas ticket drive got up to 5,000 deposits. Today, Bill Foley announced that it's up to 7,000 now. 7,000 season tickets. The drive started on February the 10th. The 10,000 deposits is something that Gary Bettman obviously wants to prove that that hockey can happen in Las Vegas. The 5,000 deposit mark happened in 48 hours. It's needed an additional 11 days to get an extra 2,000. Question is, can they get the other 3,000 they need to prove to Gary Bettman that hockey can be viable in Las Vegas?
Maybe Manny Pacquiao can buy the next 3,000.
You wrote about this, Kevin, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. To be honest, I really thought this was going to go quicker. I mean, because you're not asking a lot of money. It's as low as $150, I think, and it can be up to $900. It's about a 10%, deposit. But it's still 7,000. And
you think they'll fall short, Kevin?
No, well, I just don't know. But that's the reason why they did this. Like, no one felt it was a slam dunk that there were enough hockey fans and living there. Like, there's going to be some fans that are going to come in and buy tickets because they're visiting Las Vegas, and you're going to get probably a stronger road contingent because people are going to plan vacations and then try to plan it when their team is there. So there's a lot of other elements that goes into it, but I think they got to get that 10,000 season ticket base, and I think it's just getting the word out. Yeah, it's getting the word out.
It's hard because that's a UNLV town. I mean, look, the Wranglers never drew. Now you could say it's because it's the ECHL, and maybe that's the reason, but that's really, it's not a pro town, and it never really has been. So now they're trying to do something that's never been done. It's not an easy thing.
No, it's gutsy. Okay, Josh, what else you have? Anything?
This also hasn't been talked about at all of late throughout social media or even the media. But interesting to note that the Panthers sent defenseman Dylan Olsen, back to the AHL back on January the 30th. Well, we're on February 24th, and he still has yet to report to the team. I don't know what's going on with that, but I mean, that's my math is correct. It's almost 25 days that he has not reported to the team. Have not heard anything about the Panthers suspending him or anything like that, but kind of interesting to see what's going on there with Dylan Olsen.
Could be a personal issue.
Very strange.
Good. And finally, last thing with speaking of going down to the AHL, Ilya Bryzgalov is now with the Norfolk Admirals after clearing waivers. But how about this, guys? They have they have some NHL experience down there. It's Bryzgalov, Danny Heatley, David Steckel, and Mark Fistrick are all on the Admirals now in Norfolk.
Wow.
I saw the Norfolk Admirals play recently, and any given week, when I was there, Gibson was there, Freeberg was there, then they send him up. They keep rotating some really good talent down there, but they're never there long enough to make the team good. That's the issue.
Yeah, I wonder how they would play against the Sabres.
Yeah, you just beat me. That was exactly what I was going to say, damn it. You stole my line, Ack, damn it.
Sorry about that. Yep. There you go. Let's run the draft lottery simulator. Everyone's favorite time of the show.
Let's go, big money.
All right, big money, big money, big money. Oh, boy. All right, this team has not won yet. Today we have the Edmonton Oilers.
That's a big thud.
Really?
Connor David Edmonton.
And this has only been speculation and only been, things that, and it might just be the radio talk in Toronto, but that Connor McDavid would Connor McDavid pull a Lindros?
No way.
Yeah.
Would he say, I don't want to go to Edmonton, don't pick me, or if you're going to pick me, trade me because I don't want to play there? I don't think it's going to be the case. I don't pick up on that kind of dynamic, but it has been mentioned. It would be interesting, obviously, if it actually did.
Would anyone on the panel do that if you were Connor McDavid?
No.
No.
You would go.
No.
Edmonton eventually has to get good, guys. I mean,
Yeah,
there's so much talent on this team. They
Yeah.
have to eventually get good.
He's not going to do that.
No.
Yeah, I don't think he's gonna do that. I was just curious.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to do it. I don't think if I was him, I wouldn't do it because that Edmonton situation has a very good possibility of turning around very quickly, depending on who they bring in as coach. If they replace Todd Nelson or if they keep Todd Nelson, I mean, they have a lot of good young talent. Darnell Nurse is coming in. I mean, there's a lot there. It's just nobody has been able to piece it together and put it together, and I think eventually it will happen.
And we've said this on every podcast at this time of year, every year for the last 6 years.
I know. Right.
I'll say this. In baseball, it took Tampa Bay like 10 years
Right.
of great drafting and all that to do it. And we all say in the NHL it should only take 3 to 5 years for this rebuild or turnaround. But I think we're starting to see it really is longer with the cap. And it sometimes is 6, 7, 8 years when you really bottom out.
Yeah, well, this is definitely what Edmonton's done. If you build an AHL team long enough, you'll be a good NHL team. That's the old theory. All right, guys, remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey. We will talk to you tomorrow where we will be talking about the Pacific Division probably because I think we're going to get Matt Barry from LA on tomorrow. I'm not sure, but he's looking good for tomorrow. So we'll talk to you then, guys. Remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey.